Sure.
Am I on camera?
Yeah.
Morning, everybody. The first thing we're going to learn to do as a beginner is a solid wash. And you go into your paint and you make a big puddle of paint. A nice big puddle, depending on how big of space you're covering. And we're just going to cover a small space. I feel like I've got a colored camera in my head. You're going to come across here. Your paper is at an angle. And we're going to create a bead along this edge. That's very important because you don't want to create a hard edge along that. And you're going to keep going back into your big puddle of solid paint, and we're going to make it catch that bead and pull it across. And if it's not slanted enough, oh, Jesus, that's heavy. There. It's about 30 degrees? Keep catching that bead, and you don't want it to sit there for very long, because if it sits there for too long, you will get a hard edge. But I'm going to keep going back into my puddle, and I'm going to keep picking up that bead. And if it looks like I've lost it, hold your brush upright, put the bead back, go back into your puddle, and bring it down. And what we have now is a perfect blue sky like you'd find in Maine. Now before you leave this, you've got to go back to that edge that you just finished, dry your brush, and pick up that puddle, just like that. And you may have to pick up that little piece. Don't ever go back into there, because you will get a big blossom. I'll show you that later. Now we're going to do a graded wash. We'll take that same big blue puddle, make more of it, and we're going to start out the same way, but we're going to go from dark blue to light blue to almost nothing. So we're going to create a strip across here, and we want to have a bead of water, or a bead of paint. So go back in your puddle, hold your brush upright to make sure you've got a nice bead. See that nice bead? And go back to the puddle, pick the puddle up, run it across, make sure it's still there, go back into the puddle, drag it across. And the faster you do this, the less likely you are to get stripes. I'm losing my bead, so I want to pick my brush up, make sure I've got a nice strong bead. Go back into the puddle, go into the bead, pull it down, go back into the puddle, catch the bead and pull it down. And sometimes you can go back and forth twice. Now we have another, oh wait, I was doing a graded wash. Sorry about that. Dip into the water and then into your puddle. Pick up the bead, go into the water, into the puddle, pick up the bead, water, touch the puddle, water, touch the puddle. See, it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And we want it to be very, very light, all the way down to almost no color whatsoever. Now I'm just picking up water and pulling that bead down. Just water, pull the bead down. Rinse your brush a little bit, plain water, bead, plain water, bead, all the way down. And now you have a beautiful sky, which is the way they normally are, dark at the top and light at the bottom. Not necessarily solid blue. If it was a real sky, you probably would have some warmth here in the bottom, but that comes later. This is just what I want you to practice. Solid wash, graded wash. Now we're going to do a mingled wash. We'll do a mingled wash over here. We're going to start with the blue again. You don't have to make a big puddle of blue. It can be a smaller puddle. Put a color across, and it doesn't have to be straight. It can be more interesting than just straight across. Create your bead. You want to make your bead of color. Now we're going to go into another color. If we mix a red with that blue, it'll make a nice, lovely purple. So we're going to go into the red, make a nice big brush full of red, touch the bead, and drag it down. And you see how the heel of my brush is touching? If you go into your color and you use just the tip, you'll drop a lot of color. Then you can go back. If you want more red, you can go back and press the heel of your brush down and touch it and drag it. Now I've still got a nice bead, a little bit less there. Okay, let's get another color. If we do yellow, a nice yellow, we'll get a real pretty orange. Nice big loaded brush. Catch the bead. Now I'm doing it just with the tip. And see how it's pulling it down? Now I'm losing my yellow. So I'm going to go back, get more yellow on my brush. And now I'm going to catch those little whites. You can go back up one line, but don't ever go back up here where it's half wet and half dry. Now I'm going to leave a nice bead. See how these colors are falling down and mixing with each other? What do we want to put? Let's do another greenish blue, and we'll make a green. This is a blue that's got green in it. I'm going to just barely touch that bead. Let it fall down the page. Now I'm pressing the heel, and I'm touching it again to get more of the blue. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And what am I going to put in the green? Well, let's go back with, let's put a blue in there that's got a little bit of opacity to it. In other words, it's got a little bit of white in it. It's a little bit opaque. There. Isn't that nice? If I can do that, you can do that. Now we're going to charge. Do you have your charge cards ready? We're going to charge color into something. So let's take this red, and say you're painting along and you've got this side of the barn that you're going to have red, and you think, okay, I want another color in there. Well, this is almost the same as doing the mingled wash, but you're going to take a color and you're going to chart thick paint. You're going to take nice thick paint, almost like toothpaste consistency, and you're going to charge that in there, and it'll stay. It won't run around too much. And you just charge it once like that and leave it alone. And then you continue on with painting the side of your barn. And you decide, well, I want to charge another color over here. I'm not sure I like this side of the barn to be quite so red. So what do? I go in and I get toothpaste consistency. Really, really, really thick paint. And I just charge it in there and look at it run and do fun things. Don't go back in there and touch it. Now, what your homework is to do a whole bunch of these, do a whole bunch of these, and do a whole bunch of these, and a whole bunch of these. Then when you get done with that, you can paint a little landscape. And the little landscape is going to have a nice blue sky. And remember the bead. Always got to have that bead so you don't wind up with a hard line. Well, I got a little couple spots here, but we'll just ignore those. We're going to put, let's make it a sort of a gradated wash. So I'm going to take just plain water, and we're going to make the sky lighter and a little bit lighter. And then we're going to make it a little bit warm. And we're going to take a little bit of yellow and a little bit of orange and warm up that bottom out, because usually the skies will be a little bit warmer at the bottom, and I just made a big dollop there. Doesn't matter. You just pick it up, put some water on it, and it won't make much difference. Then dry your brush and finish picking it up, and then finish picking it up again. Now we're going to go back and make just a little more of that warmth to the sky. Maybe we'll put a little more yellow in it. Now we're going to pretend like there's a lake here, so we're going to repeat the orangey yellow stuff. And then we're going to repeat the blue up there. I'm pretending that this is a lake. Now everything's wet across there. We're going to put a headland on the other side of the lake, and it's going to be greenish, but it's not going to be real green because it's kind of far away. So we'll get a green over here that's got a little bit of blue in it. And this is thick, very almost toothpaste consistency. And if you're not sure, see the shine on the brush? Suck some of that water out like that. And before this dries, when it is that kind of not quite shiny anymore, it's just perfect. And you can go along here and make trees. And I want to make sure that I get some reflection in there. This one's reflected. Now, look at that. Perfect. Now I need a flat brush, which I don't have. When this is almost dry, you can go in and you can pick up some color across here to create the horizon, or the shoreline. Not the horizon, the shoreline. That's a little bit wet, but let's just see. No, it's too wet. When it's too wet like that, you can take something sharp and create, if it's really wet, it will create, instead of a white line, it will create a dark line. Which makes it nice because now you have a variety, and you've painted a landscape. When it's bone dry, you can go in and put some taller trees up here in the foreground, which we'll do in a minute. Want to turn it off?